Welcome to our tutorial on how to create a commercial cleaning business plan. And we are providing a sample janitorial service business plan that can apply to commercial carpet cleaning, VCT, commercial tile, or office cleaning. And my name is Shane Dubell, and this is my channel. Our company is Method Clean Biz, and you can reach our website at methodcleanbiz.com. Now, when I publish this video, I am going to leave a link to where you can access this business plan on our website. And also, we encourage you to give us your opinions. Let me know if there's sections that you liked, if there's sections you didn't like, we can expand on. Maybe I can do another video if I don't go in depth enough on a certain section. Feel free to comment and give us your overall opinion. Also, I will be switching back and forth from the template to the website where this is published and you can access, simply because some sections are easier to show on a website than on a piece of paper. So to get started, the five sections that the six sections that we are going to cover are the business description. These are our overview, what services we're going to provide, marketing, management, operations, and the fun part, financial. Now, with a business plan, one thing that I want to point out is it's a living document. It's something that we want to be updating every month. And over time, we are going to learn that some of our theories, some of our visions just don't work in the real world, or the market changes, or you change, and we want to update them. And that's why we're going to leave some sections blank, and this will be our update section. That yes, the beginning part of a business plan, regardless if you're a new company or a company that wants to go in a different direction, if you just want to get more organized, you're not going to know every single answer. Nobody does. So that's why we're mapping out questions. And then over time, when we learn information, now we can update it. Think of it like a budget. We're budgeting where we think is going to happen, and then there's the actual. So to get started, we came up with a hypothetical company called Next Door Commercial Cleaning Service. And we are just providing a general overview of who we are, where we are. We're in Toledo, Ohio. We're incorporated as an S Corp, and we currently have 3 employees, 1 marketing person, and 2 cleaning techs. We have an office of 5,000 square feet. And here's our target market. We want to go after buildings that are 50 to 100 plus employees, primarily professional offices. Now, this is a sample, so this is something that you personally will have to decide for yourself. So I want to make sure I point out that we're not saying you do this and you have to do it this way. That's not the point of this at all. We are just putting together questions to kind of organize your thoughts and keep track. And so the next section is going to be an industry overview. So we have our sections, our 6 sections, and then we have our subsections under each one that go into more detail. And you may decide to go more detail or less detail. Currently, the retail sector of the industry. So this is like your opinion of the industry as a whole. And there was a time when I first started where I was big in retail, Kmart's, Target stores, but over time that industry changed and it became very difficult to make money. You needed a lot of labor, and the prices were very difficult. So I moved on from that retail sector into professional offices. which is what is in our description. Is I'm saying this is what we want. Now, your experiences and your goals may be completely different. So again, I want to just repeat that this is a personal thing and not you have to do it this way. So after the industry overview, we can get more into detail on our company description, create a mission statement. Now, in the beginning, it's tough to come up with one. I was always big on safety, so that was always one of my mission statements. And basically, a mission statement is your main company value proposition. So safety, I want to go after larger companies. Safety is more important to them. Smaller employers, they don't. And I'm in the Northeast in New York. We have a lot of manufacturers, distributors, so safety is important to them. So that's part of the reason why I use that as a value proposition. And our main mission statement. From there, we give a brief history. When did we start up? This is in this situation, this is a startup, so we don't have any company history, but each of the partners have life history. So this is where we would list that. And the reason we want to do that is we each have different skills. So for instance, Lisa, one of the partners, is a former office manager and salesperson. So she has experience in sales and marketing. So that she would be a good fit for the office admin type of uh, position. Where Jason has more practical real life experience in various management roles. So this is how it's going to break down that Lisa's going to be more in the admin and sales of the company, and Jason's going to be in operations. He's going to be more involved in the equipment and all that fun stuff. Next section is to goals and objectives. The goal, what's our goal? Because once we can establish what our goal is, then you can almost reverse engineer and go backwards and start filling in the blanks. That's why it's so important for us because some of these questions, as we process through them, what you realize is they can completely change. Now, we set a goal of 1.5 million in sales. If your goal is only 300,000 in sales, some of these questions are completely different. That's why we want to be upfront and say, this is our goal, this is our objectives, and this is how much money we want to make. This is a big question because this is what everyone cares about. And in their case, they said they want an owner benefit, which is that's the main metric for small business owners, of around $300,000 a year. And that would be benefits, wages, profit, company profits, health insurance, dental insurance, all that. That, and they're a couple, so that would be the both of them. So that's their goal. And it's good to define that because, again, later on down the road, some of these questions come up, it'll make a lot more sense. You know, what are our critical success factors? The key to success is for us, now you may have a different opinion, but the key to success in the cleaning business is people because this is a very labor intensive industry. So we really want to focus on recruiting, training, hiring, and this is going to be our critical success. Whether we fail or succeed, it's going to be all about people, all about recruiting employees and training them. That is which, if you're a specialty company, it's still important, but equipment becomes a much larger part of the equation compared to a janitorial service. Company ownership and exit. How do I exit this? And the company has two shareholders. Lisa owns some, Jason owns some. this is where what's our exit plan? Do we want to do this for 15 years, 20, 10? And when we do sell, how are we going to split up the sale price? The next section is the next category is services. What services do we want to provide going forward? And industries change, you change, so your whole mix may completely change. But we're going to focus on daily cleaning services to local businesses with an emphasis on specialty work because we want all these high margin, we want to mix in these high margin specialty services with the daily cleaning services. This is a list of the different services that we want to provide. Daily janitorial, carpet steam cleaning, low moisture, hard surface, VCT, office, and disinfecting services. So this is a nice little mix. And if you really wanted to get into this, you could apply percentages to each of these and say, well, I want 50% of revenue coming from here, 10 here, 20 here. So that's another option if you want to get more into this. From here, now we can get more into detail of each of these services. Daily janitorial, carpet steam cleaning, or do you plan on getting a truck mount? And if you do, well, they're expensive. So that's something to think forward on is, well, how am I going to pay for it? They can go for anywhere from 30 to 50 to 70 grand. So you're either going to have to borrow money or invest your own. Either way, it is a great question to be asking yourself. And here is just a list of the different services that we're going to provide with some of the details. And everyone has different opinions about some of the details of these services. I'll leave that up to you. This section is competitive advantage. What's going to be your competitive advantage? How are you going to beat everyone else? There's 8,000 cleaning companies in the world, or in your area, actually. There's probably 100,000 or 200,000 in the country. So how are you going to separate yourself? And this is something we want to ask ourselves. Well, we think that our advantage is in the specialty services. We're going to really shine in the specialty services. Two things that this is one of the things that I've always found with janitorial services is they're not great with the specialty services. Maybe with VCT, but when it comes to hard surfaces and carpet cleaning, especially carpet cleaning, most don't have a truck mount. So that's why we're using this as our competitive advantage. Now, maybe yours will be disinfection, or maybe it will be VCT, maybe it'll be windows or pressure washing. But that's one competitive advantage that we're going to use. So far, we covered our business description, our services, and the third one out of the six is marketing. Now, in marketing, we are going to switch back to the website. And with our marketing plan, we have several subcategories. The first one is marketing research, trying to figure out, well, how many businesses are there? So in our case, we want to focus on larger businesses with 100 plus employees. We did some research and we came up with there's 328 of them. And businesses with 50 or more employees, there's 659. So that's a total of 987 businesses. This is our key account total. So these businesses, this is going to be our core. This is why we're doing marketing research, because we are trying to figure out who is actually out there, what opportunities. Because in Toledo, Ohio, Your opportunities can be completely different than if you lived in, say, Miami or Seattle or a small town, collection of small towns. And we want to put 75% of our budget into these 987 businesses. Next will be our growth accounts. And growth accounts are smaller businesses, smaller accounts that we hope will grow into larger accounts later on down the road. We also want these, and there's 4,300 of them. Advertising. Commercial advertising is around 10%. And this is something like Google AdWords, because with AdWords you can't really control who comes in, and same with social media to an extent. Once you start publishing on or running ads in social media, you can't always really super target like this. So you can't control who comes in. It's miscellaneous people that come in. So that's why we're giving it the smallest piece of the pie, but we still want that. Competitors. Who are our competitors? And one of the things with competitors that we all know is that people in general are looking for they're looking for easy money. So that's why we are looking for marketing strategies that are difficult for our competitors, because that's less competition. So that's why we're targeting businesses with 50 or more employees, because we know that that's going to be hard to do for a lot of companies. People get nervous about larger companies or mid-sized companies a lot of times, especially when they're smaller. So that's why we're doing it. Now, there's other ones that you'll have to think of for yourself. And what we did is just create a simple list of these are the things that are easy to do. Now, we still want to do easy ones, but now here's a list of things that are hard to do. And this is what we really want to focus on, because we know if they're hard to do, your competitors can't do them either. So that's why we're focusing on them. Now, I'm for all of these things also, but I really want to focus on the hard ones, because if it's hard for me, it's hard, especially once you become good at these hard ones, you can really grow, because that's a big competitive advantage. For commercial, the sales plan is a very simple way to organize your thoughts, and that is just asking a handful of questions. What's our objective in this time period? A month, a year. What's our objective? Do we want to sell $10,000 of work or 100,000? What resources do we have available? How much time a month, and how many hours, or how much budget are we willing to commit to this? That's why we want to put together a sales plan. A sales plan is more focused. It's only covering like a month, a quarter, or a year. So it's not the big your big business plan. It's far more targeted, and there's only a handful of questions that you would ask yourself. We have a whole blog on this and a whole worksheet on this. If you search it on our website, it's much a much bigger topic. Pricing strategy. How do we want to price? I know everybody's cheap. Every single cleaning company you speak to in every industry, they all say that everybody's cheap. Nobody wants to spend money. What we want to do is we want to come up with a pricing strategy, and not just throw stuff against the wall. So some of our pricing strategies can be cost plus by the square foot. Generally, square foot, what happens is it's unit pricing. So let's say that you are bidding on 10,000 square foot offices. Well, after you bid on three, four, five of them, you're going to have a square foot. That's unit pricing. You know, cost plus. This is especially on jobs that you're unfamiliar with. If you've never done a 20,000 square foot job before, then you would want to go cost plus or time and materials. So that's our pricing, deciding our pricing strategy. And there's probably a dozen different pricing strategies, and that is something that you'll have to decide. Our sales strategy. Some of the things to take into account, especially with commercial jobs, is going to be cash flow, and that's why we want a sales strategy. We want to think about that. If 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 you are going to do a 30-day net, a 60-day net, a 90-day, and how much of that? Because 90-day net, it does happen once in a while. You wouldn't want too many of them, though, because you're really going to get backed up on your cash flow. So you're thinking about cash flow and trying to mix up your clients, taking into account cash flow. Where something like a carpet cleaning job, you might want them to pay that in 7 days. And that's why we want to ask these questions, because certain industries, the cash flow is really bad. They pay late, so we don't want to do too many of them. A couple of them is fine, but it's something to think about. Sales forecasting. How much if we add a new technician, and this is especially true for the specialty services, if we were going to hire a new technician, we would want to think forward, well, how much revenue do I need to keep that person working? Because one of the things that leads to a lot of turnover is when you can't find enough work for the technician. And in specialty work, you spend all this time on technicians, training them, education, and then it doesn't work out, and we're back to square one again. Now, for the full marketing plan, you can click on this button, and we have a whole section in video on putting together a marketing plan, and this gets really into the details of the budgeting and target market worksheet. This gets more into the details, but marketing is just one section of a business plan. Step four is going to be covering the category four is going to be covering management. And we just want to lay out how is our management going to work. And you'll really see this in when I show you the slide of this. But we we want to structure our company from the president, the operations manager, if you're going to hire salespeople and marketers, who's going to be the office manager. And you can really see this in our organizational chart. See, this is what happens. This is why this is so important to lay out what your management structure is going to be, because this is what happens to most cleaning companies and why people quit and they hate it, because this is you, the boss, and everybody comes to you. Every employee, every vendor, everybody comes to you, and all the pressure's on you. But we want to avoid that. And instead, what we want to do is create a management structure that you're the president and you have an operations manager. So all these people report to that operations manager, and you only talk to three people. Now, obviously, this takes time, and if you're a smaller company, this may take decades to get to this level. But this is the goal, is to, even if it's not an operations manager, it might just be a supervisor. But the point is to avoid this, because this will end badly, and that's why we want to start to create some kind of a structure, so we're not dealing with every tiny little problem. Some of the professional support people that you'll need, and this is important to create a whole list. So that way, when something does happen, we're not just running out and trying every little thing, because there's just not enough hours in the day. So that's why we want to lay this all out. Our lawyer and review this, say, once a year. Who's our lawyer going to be, our accountant, financial advisor, what banks we're going to use, payroll services. These are all common vendors. So this is a vendor list. That's what professional support is. And here's the management structure and operations chart that we were just going over. And the point is to create supervisors, especially if in the early going, you may be the operations manager at, until you grow more. And then in that case, you'd have supervisors, and then all of the employees in these buildings would report to them instead of going directly to you. So that is the whole management structure topic. And if you click on this link, you'll go and see all of those charts and the full explanation. So far, we covered 4 of the sections. First was the business description, what services we're going to provide, marketing. Last was management. Now, the last 2 sections of our business plan are going to be operations and financial. For the operations section, the starting point is the employee handbook. This is, and we have a full employee handbook for you to go through and you can customize for yourself, because what we want to do is create an employee handbook. And what an employee handbook is it's not the day-to-day operations of how to clean. It's your management structure, your rules, if you will. That's a simple way to think of your employee handbook. Is these are your rules, and you're laying out to every new employee, here's how you do timekeeping, here's how you get paid. If you want to quit, here's the process. This is when our schedule, smoking, and all of these little details. But this doesn't get into the actual training of the job. These are the company rules. And so that's why it's so important to have a employee handbook. And that's the starting point of operations, is creating these company rules for every employee to follow. This would be 5.2 is going to be a critical part. It's critical for every business, but especially in the janitorial business, is recruiting, hiring, and interviewing. We want to lay this all out. You know, what are the steps to hiring good employees on a consistent basis? What do we need? And here are some basic things that we need. Job descriptions. We want to put together a spreadsheet or a database of some kind for applicants. We don't want to wait to interview and put applicants together at the last minute. That's what leads to a lot of pain. Instead, we want to keep an inventory, if you will, of employees or applicants. Where will we run advertisements? How much money were they? How much money will that cost us to find new candidates? How will we score the resumes as you are doing all this? The resumes and applications are coming in. Deciding, well, how am I going to score this? What's going to be your phone interview? What's going to be your process? Maybe you'll do 2 phone interviews and on-site. Then who's the decision maker on this, and how many people are involved? It's always best to have 2 people involved in the decision, because you can use each other's strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes people just see things that another person doesn't see. Safety meetings. This is a big topic now, as this is recording because of the pandemic, that safety is a big priority now. So this is our safety program. And it's always good for once a month to cover a topic. Maybe not every week, that might be too much, but at least once a month to cover one of these topics. That would be a great safety program. 5.4, we are going to cover employee compensation, and this is number 5 under operations still. And employee compensation is important, especially when it comes to avoiding any trouble with discrimination type of lawsuits and specifically unemployment claims. This is how we avoid unemployment claims is by having an objective process of how people are paid, and more importantly, how do they receive raises. And we want to avoid just arbitrarily giving one person a raise and not another when they do the same exact job. That's how you get in trouble. So that's why we want to create, here are 5 different variables to consider when giving somebody a raise: attendance, on time, inspections, equipment, customer survey. You may put more weight on one or the other, or even cut this down to 2 or 3 things, or expand it. That would be up to you. Inventory. How will we keep track of all of this equipment, especially equipment, because equipment disappears. So that's why this is something we want to think ahead on and say, well, how are we going to number, label, and keep track of all of our equipment and all of our chemicals and detergents that we use? Credit policy and cash flow. Will we talked about this above in marketing. It's part of the sales strategy. This is also a part of operations. You know, what is going to be our standard net? In the sales strategy part, we were more thinking forward about what types of businesses we want to target. And in here, this is like our day-to-day operations. What is going to be our net? Maybe yours will be 15, maybe yours will be 60 if it's authorized by you. In specialty jobs, I would definitely make the specialty jobs a smaller net than, say, a recurring customer, and especially one-time jobs. One-time jobs, I would expect them to turn that around real fast. But that's up to you to decide. And the point is to think of this ahead of time, so when it happens, so it's not, you're not being pulled around. You're controlling this. You're deciding ahead of time. And that's the whole point of this whole business plan, is to just ask these questions ahead of time, so we're not just running around with like a chicken with their head cut off. The sixth and final part is the financials. This is the part we all love, the numbers. And I am just kind of joking around on that. Uh, Generally, us cleaning businesses hate the financials. But here are some basic financials. I would definitely encourage you to hire an accountant that specializes in small business and come up with the details. I am not a professional accountant, so this is just covering some of the basics to be keeping track of. What are my startup funds going to be? Our income statement, our break even point, our cash flow, especially. Businesses don't go out of business, they run out of money. There's lots of good companies out there, they just don't physically have the money, and that's where the credit policies come in, and what our balance sheet is. This is an example of our startup funds. And this, a startup fund, or our startup template, is, it's not just for the startup, it's also if you were planning on growing. Let's say, for argument's sake, you were planning on adding another shop or adding another location. You would want to consider what are you, or you wanted to grow. If you wanted to add another couple 100,000 in revenue, well, your cost might go up. So that's why it's not just a startup cost. You can also think of it as a growth cost. Next is the break-even point, and we have a calculator, and we have another video on this on YouTube, and that's coming up with our break-even analysis. The example was specialty cleaning, but can be applied to carpet too. And the reason is to take into account our fixed costs and our cost of goods sold, our gross margin. Every job we do, we are going to have a fixed cost. Let's say, for argument's sake, it's 50%. So we make 50% gross profit off of each job, for argument's sake. And then at the end of the month, we have these fixed costs. And that can completely change your net profit. And that's why we want to do a break even analysis so we can think ahead on how much, what's our magic number? Because we all have these numbers in our heads of how much profit we want, and it's going to be different for everybody. But of where you're going to be, where your happiness is going to be, where this is going to be worth it for you. The third one in financials is the income statement. This is our profit and loss, and then minus taxes to see our net. Taxes can be a big deal, especially with a small business owner, but that is all something that you would go over with an accountant. Our cash flow statements. This is something, all these things I'm showing examples of, they're going to be in QuickBooks or other accounting software. I'm just going over the main ones, but you wouldn't need a separate template for most of these. Most small business owners are going to use some kind of a accounting software like QuickBooks, and they will have screens that go over this. These are just some of the questions to be thinking about. And the last one is your balance sheet. This is everything that you own, everything that you owe. It's important to keep track of this and look at our percentages, how many sales to our debt. There's all these different financial ratios to be keeping track of to make sure our debt doesn't get too out of control. Lastly, is if you are, this is one of the services we provide, is putting together lead lists. So at the end of this, if you need a list of 400 or 600 or even thousands of prospects, you can call us, or you can click on the link and fill out the form, and we can speak with you about putting together a dedicated leads list. The big thing is targeting. That's why it's so important to buy a leads list, is so you can target to very specific companies. And again, thank you for watching this video. My name is Shane Dubell. You can visit our website at methodcleanbiz.com.